Hi everybody, I'm Dr Simon Sandall and I lecture in early modern British history at the University of Winchester. I'd like to take just a couple of minutes of your time to say a few words about the podcast that I'm producing for the Heritage Open Day series in Winchester, which is occurring in September. For the paper and the podcast, I'll be focusing and looking at and exploring the culture surrounding the Religious Society of Friends, or Quakers and Friends as they're often more commonly known, within the North Hampshire parish of Alton, which is a bit to the east of Winchester, as I'm sure that most of you realise. They're an absolutely fascinating group in their own right, and on many levels. I'll be focusing on two aspects of this culture specifically for this podcast. The first is the meeting house, and the second is the Friends Women's Committee that operated within the meeting house. Now, the meeting house itself is particularly interesting. It was built in 1672, which makes it actually the second oldest purpose-built meeting house or Quaker meeting house in the country. And I'll be thinking about that in the paper, the motivations, the funds, and the legacy that it bequeaths to the parish itself. But also I'll be looking at the committees that emerged from within this religious group and within this religious meeting house, particularly the Friends Women's Committee. Now, this is a group of between 8 to 10, sometimes 12 women that would meet on a regular basis, sometimes bi-weekly, sometimes monthly. It varies, but it's very regular. And they meet and leave this detailed set of records from the 1670s through to the 1750s. I'll be focusing on the records from the 1670s, the 1680s and the 1690s, largely because they're the most detailed, but also to give a bit of context as to why I'll be focusing on the late 17th century in particular. The 17th century is often seen, or is commonly accepted actually, as a century which sees in England particularly the rise of a middling sort, the rise to power of a different strata of society, certainly in the southeast and other parts of England particularly. Now, the manifestation of this power often actually occurs at administrative level in the parish. So, from 1603, the Poor Law, this group, which has been gaining economic significance from the 16th century through their occupations of, merchants in an urban context, but certainly in a rural context through large market-scale farming, yeoman farmers, husbandmen, those sorts of things, self-style themselves as the substantial inhabitants of the parish, or the better sort, or the middling sort in that sense, and they take control of administrative functions. Now, Keith Wrightson and Steve Hindle suggest that by taking control of the administration of poor relief, the administration of help and aid to the sick and the infirm, dealing with issues of vagrancy, settlement issues, apprenticeships for the children of the poor, those sorts of things, those sorts of administrative issues and phenomena, this helps them gain a political power which consolidates the economic power in a process of social and cultural polarisation. Now, it won't surprise any of you to realise that these groups were invariably male. They were groups of men, substantial inhabitants of a parish, gaining power for themselves at the beginning and through the 17th century. What's fascinating about the late 17th century in Alton is that we get this Friends Women's Committee, which is operating in very similar ways. It's dealing with issues of poor relief. It's holding influence over the overseer of the poor in many cases. So this is a group of women which we don't really glimpse anywhere else. Certainly the records aren't there in this level of detail. So I'll be exploring the meeting house, but I'll also be exploring this very unusual and remarkable acquisition of power within the parish by a group of women, which is, as I say, it's very unusual, and we certainly don't have records anywhere else to demonstrate this kind of gendered power in the 17th century. So hopefully you'll be able to join me in September. Hopefully you'll be able to journey back with me to 17th century Alton to explore the culture of this remarkable group of women in the committee within the Quakers and within the Quaker meeting house. I hope to see you. Thanks. Take care.